doing this agent inferno content. Oops,
Oh, you're good.
recording. Okay, so I have a seller, good friends, worked with them for years, help them buy, help them sell, but now they're selling again. And they've been getting their house ready for the past couple of months. And he's very analytical, and he called me yesterday and said, I've been thinking, like, if you happen to just have a buyer, like, we could be unrepresented and, kind of cut our commission down a little bit. And I have 6 buyers, but I don't have a buyer for his house, unfortunately. And so I kind of stumbled through that conversation, and I was like, well, let me think on that for a little bit. So anyway, I was just kind of wondering what other people say in that scenario.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, guys, what would you say? What have you said? What would you be worried about if somebody says, if you have a buyer, we could be unrepresented and save some money? What do you think? And for this scenario, let's say we don't have a buyer. We literally don't have a buyer for this property.
I would start flowing questions, schedule a meeting, start finding out what it means to him, what saving money means to him, because sometimes they don't exactly know what that means. I mean, they think that it's the commission, obviously, but what if you were to get him a lot more money than what he thought his house was worth? Then is saving the commission really saving commission? But you can't do that over the phone or through text message.
Ken, that's really helpful. Do you mind like scripting that with me? How you would have that conversation with me, just so people can kind of hear it in real time? Sure. Let's do it. Okay, so I'll objection to you, and then you kind of explain exactly what you just said in a role play. So Ken, I love it that you're here, and thank you for coming. And just to be honest, I know that you do a ton of business, and if you have a buyer that's looking in our price range, we would really like to just save the money on commission, and like we could still throw you a couple $1,000s for finding the person, but we'd like to save some money on commission if you've got a buyer in our price range.
Oh, totally understand that, Rebecca. And there's a good chance that I might have one. Why don't I schedule an appointment to come over, look at the house? I know, it's been a little while since I've been in it. I remember it being a great house. Just kind of want to see, the condition and kind of what improvements you've done on it. And then maybe we'll talk about a strategy and different prices that you might have in mind to what you were wanting to get out of it. So, would you want to do it this week, or you want to meet over the weekend?
Yes, great. I would love to meet over the weekend.
Okay, fantastic. And then we can go over kind of what your plans are, what your strategy is, and kind of what you're thinking on, the saving the money on the commission and stuff like that. And who knows, I might be able to make you more money by, listing on the MLS and paying a little bit more commission. We might be able to get a lot more money than what you ever thought about. We start getting more and more buyers competing over your house and driving the price up. You may end up netting a lot more money if we do list it. But, I don't want to talk about that on the phone. Let's talk about that in the house, because, I just need to get a lot more information before we get down that road.
Boom. Expert. Okay, what did you guys hear in that conversation, and what felt really good to you?
I love how at the end he kind of dropped his point to let it sink in, and then cut the conversation to let them kind of chew on that and make them think, wow, he thinks I can get more money if I go on the MLS, and they're going to be thinking about that until he makes the appointment. But I love how he cut off the conversation at that point to wait until he got in front of them face to face.
Yep, absolutely. Anybody else? And one of the things I really like that you did is I didn't feel any pressure in the beginning. You said your strategy, what does this mean to you, your plans for the house. It was like, yeah, great, you were agreeing with me. And then all of a sudden you created some doubt. And that's like pro level scripting, because now I'm like, oh, well, my objection is not that you're not worth the money. My objection is my own pocketbook. So when you get there, and if my pocketbook looks a little bit better going on the MLS, done, deal, over. But Jessica, I agree with you whenever you're standing there in front of them. And I had a similar conversation recently with a friend who was for sale by owner. it feels offensive when they're like, I don't want to pay the full commission. It feels like it's coming at me, and really it's a reflection about what they're doing, their family, their money, their goals, and making sure we're digging deeper in those objections, make them way easier to handle, for me anyway.
Right, and I understand, and I know them well, and I honestly didn't take offense to it, but I started racking my brain, and I was like, okay, how can I help them? And then I hear Randy's like, okay, but if you put it in the MLS, you're getting it out to 13,000 agents, syndicating to like 900 websites, and so things like that I need to like verbalize to them too.
And then because only half of it is getting that appointment. So then the other half is what you just said, when you get over there and you start talking about it, So Rebecca, did you have an idea in mind for what you wanted to list the property for?
Yeah. You want to role play this?
Yeah, sure.
Good.
We'll try.
Okay. I mean, we saw.
So Rebecca, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, our neighbors just sold for 300. So we have granite countertops and they're way cool. So definitely like 315 is what we'd like to get out of it.
Okay. And then, so I've already prepared myself for what I think the price of the property is. I've got my highs, lows. I've got my dream price of what somebody might want. I've searched on what Zillow said that it is. I've searched on what RPR said it is. I've done, my CMA that I've had. So I already know in the back of my mind, Rebecca's house is probably worth between 300 and 325 or whatever. So when she says 315, I'm like, okay, we're in the ballpark. Now I need to kind of look around. So I don't really say anything when you tell me 315. I'm like, okay, all right. So, show me around the property. And then I'm, it goes a little bit different because they are a past client. So I don't go into all of the stuff that we do on a listing appointment. And then I go around, look at the property, and then we sit down, and then I'm like, okay, so walk me through your process of why you would want to do it off market again.
Well, we thought it would be easy and quick and save, gosh, a $300,000 house. If we pay the full 3% commission, that's like $9,000. So really, even if we paid you half of that, we could still save $4,500, and then I can go to Disney World. So loved it.
Okay. So what were you thinking that the total commission would be?
6%. Isn't that what you charged us last time?
Yeah, 6%. So just wanted to make sure that you were thinking the same percentage that we normally do. So you were thinking if I listed it or if I sold it to somebody I already have, then you'd be willing to pay 3%?
Yeah, just like if we were to list it for sale by owner. We've been reading online about that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's true. There's so many buyers out there right now, and I do have a bunch of them. I probably have, more in my pipeline than most agents do. So I'm definitely going to go over that. And then, we've got about 3 different ways that we can market a property right now. One is what we call the private office exclusive. And that's kind of what you would refer to as like your pocket listing, or where if I had a buyer, then I could show it to them. And that's definitely one route that we can go. It can save you a lot of time and hassle of the selling process. And that might be what you're looking for. Is that kind of what you're looking for, Rebecca?
Yeah, I could see that being a benefit.
And then where were you going to go when you sold your house?
Well, you're going to help us
What
find
were your plans?
sweet new home. I know the market's crazy right now, but if we can make that much more on our property, we're ready to go find something.
And have you looked at any properties online to where you might want to go?
Yep, every night. That's all we do. We're like, no more Netflix, only Zillow.
Yeah, I understand that. A lot of clients do, and I know when I was looking for a house, that's all we did too, was looked online. I found that about 50% of the people do find their property online first. And then I've also got about 35% of the people that found their property is because they found it because of an agent. So that tells me that an agent is still very relevant in today's market. And kind of what that means is, about 10 years ago, I used to sit down at, a table, and I'd sit down with, my clients, and I would have a stack of about 10 different houses that we were going to go look at that day. And then today, what I find is you actually have the 10 properties that you want to go look at. So you've already scoured the internet. You've already found the houses that you're wanting to look at. And then what that 35% tells me is that we went and looked at those 10 properties that you wanted to go look at. However, I had a couple other properties in mind that didn't make your list. And we went and looked at those, and ultimately you picked one of those properties. So by transitioning that from a private office exclusive onto the MLS, we're going to expose it to a lot more people. And in today's market, and I'm going to probably show you these stats, in this kind of area, we know that right now we're getting 103% of the list price in this particular area. So that tells me as long as we're priced competitively, we're going to get offers. We're probably going to get multiple offers, and it's going to go above that asking price.
So you just did something there that I want to point out to everybody. You're using numbers, because here's the deal. We may not all agree on emotions, but the whole world agrees on numbers. That's what it all runs off of. So if I can go a little bit scientific and take people back to the data, Jessica, whenever the clients say, hey, we'd like to save the money, whatever it is, if it's FSBO, I don't really care. If I'm sitting in front of them and I can pull up the stats and say, for the average 3-bedroom, 3-bath house in your subdivision, we're selling for 103% of list price. Well, what did I just do? That 3% that you wanted to save, I just made it back for you online, and most people can draw that conclusion themselves. So making sure anytime somebody wants to talk numbers or commission, doing exactly what Ken just did and taking it back to their numbers and putting it in front of them, that's all day the best way to handle it.
So then I might suggest, I'm probably going to talk about those numbers a little bit more, and then talk about 103% and getting above the asking price if you go on the MLS, and then showing how paying the extra 3% for another agent that was to bring the buyer might actually net them either the same or more money and just get more exposure. And then I'm probably going to go back and explain those 3 types of listings again: the private office exclusive, where a lot of my clients like to try that for a little bit, then the coming soon, which creates the buzz about it, and then eventually going on full-fledged onto the market, onto the MLS for multiple buyers, multiple offers.
Conversation, Ken. One of the things that I try to do with clients is draw whenever I'm on listing appointments. I'm not an artist. Don't get scared about it. But whenever we start talking about like, hey, could you just bring me a buyer? Typically have a little piece of paper here, and you would say something like, you know what, Tyler, I love it that you guys know we sell a lot of houses and we work with a lot of buyers, and that makes my heart really happy. But can I just like draw a quick example for you? You're like, yeah, no problem. So we sell, 100 houses a year. We sell 75 houses a year. I don't care. We sell however many houses a year. And if this is like representative of how many buyers I have, that's great. Did you know there's 10,000 agents in Kansas City? And those 10,000 agents sell an average of, I'm going to have it pulled, 500 houses in your school district. I'm going to draw a bigger circle like this. So while I would love to bring you the buyer, and like you said, you were comfortable probably paying like 4% commission, so that's like a little pay raise for me, which I appreciate. If I'm really doing my best to represent you guys in the sale and making sure that we net you the most money, like, wouldn't you agree that having access to all of these extra buyers right here might be a benefit? And then they're like, oh, well, yeah, I kind of get that. And maybe the market would dictate a higher price. And so whenever we're talking with people like that, I think sometimes putting it on paper where you're hitting both sides of their brain, we've talked about the numbers and the 103%, and I'm drawing it, and you're saying that my buyer pool is this big and everybody else's buyer pool is that big, it starts to make a lot more sense to them. What anybody have any thoughts around that? And what Ken's dropping so much knowledge, I want to take a pause and let everybody kind of soak some of it in.
The only thing is I would probably soften it up a lot, Jessica, since they are your past clients and you kind of do have a relationship. I would just kind of be more fun, like, kind of exactly what Rebecca just said, but I would just kind of almost try to make it their idea at that point, which would kind of just be like, oh, and we also have 12,000 agents that we could have fighting over your property, just kind of like that. Not so maybe direct, I would say. I would totally be that direct if I was at a listing presentation. Like, there's no doubt about it. I'd probably even be more direct. But a past client, I kind of I'm still direct like that. However, I'd probably, for you, you might make it funner or whatever, and just be like, yeah, like this is something that probably is going to work out to your benefit. However, with all that being said, I would not turn down the private office exclusive and I would definitely not let them for sale by owner it. I would get them on the hook for the private office.
Yes, thank you. And yes, I appreciate all of this, and they're most of the time reasonable people, but the mister just has dollar signs for eyeballs right now, and I'm just trying to talk him off that ledge, but thank you. I appreciate all of it.
And the in-person meeting is probably the most important thing, and it's just undervalued right now with technology.
And I am going right there right now, so I'm going to have to leave the meeting here shortly, but I do appreciate all of this.
Good luck. Where's the house at?
Prairie Village.
Okay.
All right,
right.
I'll keep you posted.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So Ken, Rebecca, do you address the pain point at all of putting it for sale by owner and having to deal with all of the phone calls and people showing up at any hour and the issue with inspections and things like that? How do you bring that into the conversation to cause a little bit of pain to show why it's worth it to have somebody else handle all of that for them? How do you present that aspect?
I mean, I definitely do. I'm listening to the pain point all the time to figure out like how painful is this versus the money, and then we're going to put a dollar amount on the pain. So last night I had a past client send me a text message. You guys, this is embarrassing. She sent me a text message and said, "Hey Rebecca, would you think it was weird if we were ready to sell our house?" Nope, I'm super excited, emojis, let's go. We hop on the phone. She goes, "So we've been talking to OfferPad and they made us a really great offer." And I'm like, oh gosh, oh, don't do it. Don't do it. And I'm sorry I haven't called you in 2 years. I'm so embarrassed. So now we're trying to get back in front of it. But their pain point is they have 4 foster kids and they don't want to put it on the market, and they have 4 foster kids and money's really important. So I'm going to go to their house tonight and we're just going to have a really honest conversation of like, what's our dollar? The pain point is we don't want to clean up the house or outsource these, like the kids need to stay. It needs to be a really easy transaction, and it's probably a private office exclusive, but we're going to do our very best to put dollar amounts at all of these columns. So in my head, the first conversation we have is, all right, if we go full out, we fix the carpet, we paint the house, and we take a vacation to Branson for 3 days the first weekend the house is on the market, how much could we make if we spend all the money and do all the things? Great. What's our next option? Private office exclusive. We don't touch anything. We maybe only kick the kids out if Rebecca's there, and maybe Rebecca comes and we still watch Disney the whole time we're at the house. I don't care, but this is our third. And then our third option is, okay, OfferPad's offered us $220. What's that look like? What are the pros and what are the cons? And then we get them in front of the Keller Offers program, which if you haven't looked into that, you should look into that. Anybody know what Keller Offers is, or is anybody a part of that program yet?
Working on it.
Can you give us like a summary of that?
No, that's what I'm working on.
Right, so
but they will loan you money to do the fixes on the house so that you can sell it for top dollar, or that they do have a different program where like they can buy it from the seller.
You got it.
And then
Mac, are you at a place
you relist it.
Yes, that's correct. Are you at a place where you can unmute Terry Mack, you expert?
Sure. I got certified with Keller Offers. So it's two options, and it's kind of like she said. They got where they offer you X amount of dollars to fix up the repairs, and you can sell it at a higher list price. And then they have where you can fill out the seller's disclosure and just disclose everything about the house and get a cash offer from one of their buyers in a different state or whatever. But
and then Terry Mack, what happens if my client decides to sell to Keller Offers and then they fix up the house? Who gets to sell it again?
You said if they fix up the house?
We do.
With the first option? Are you saying the first option?
Yes.
Yeah, we get to sell it. So yeah.
That's exactly right. So I represent the
That's
buyer.
the benefit. That's the benefit of it.
Yep, it's a really cool program. If you haven't looked into it, look into it, or shoot me a message and I'll send you the link on how to get certified and find out a little bit more. Rebecca
Hey,
did.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
Hey, on this topic, I've actually had this experience a couple of times over the last couple of months. I find that actually bringing your value as their preferred trusted realtor by saying, okay, well, let me look at the numbers of what, whatever this company is offering you or whatever you would get. And if the numbers look right, I would tell them, hey, if you can get that without no stress, if they're willing to rent it back to you, if they're willing to do all of those things to make your life perfect so that we can then go find you the right house, I think that's wonderful. Go for it. However, in my experience, I've seen that they get you under contract, then they beat you up after their due diligence period. If you can get assurance from them that they're either going to rent it back to you or make sure that this goes through effectively, I say go for it. The comps justify. I don't think I'm going to get you a ton more on the market. I think that shows your integrity and that you're not adding on to their stresses about they probably just want to sell the house and move on and go with you to go look at houses. So I think both times I've done that, they both come back to me and said, how can you help me do this now in a private office exclusive or in some other capacity so that my world can be a little bit easier that way. That's just my opinion. I think it's important to really try to help the people first and answer their current question before you focus on how can I get them to list with me.
You're the real MVP, Charlie.
I kind of want to add something to that too, because I think a lot of people, especially the newer agents, don't realize that there's a couple ways to have all these conversations. And one way is like I mentioned earlier, being softer about it. And the other way is, like Felicia was asking, it's kind of like if you're having a FSBO conversation with a past client or a friend, you get to have the conversation one way. And then if it's somebody you don't know, you have to have the conversation kind of another way. And reading that room, and if you go down the road and it's somebody you don't know, I mean, anybody that's been doing this, probably Landon probably could, chime in on this too. But I mean, you start having a pain conversation with a guy that's talking about